What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
And I'm Miguel.
And we would like to welcome you to the third annual Let's Talk Movies Oktoberfest event here at this channel. We're doing things a little bit differently this year. We've taken a bit of a thematic approach to this year's Oktoberfest event, and the theme this year is horror highlights. So we're going back and we're going to work our way through all of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, all of the Halloween franchise, plus a whole bunch of other slew of horror films throughout the months of September and October, and talk our favorite moments, the highlights, our highlight reel, our personal highlight reel from both of those franchises, and a whole lot more. So it's going to be a blast. We're super stoked about the kind of reformatting of Oktoberfest, and it gives us a chance to kind of unify our content. You're still going to get the live streams and our big Scarefest vlog. You're going to get the Halloween horror shopping vlogs, all of that stuff still, but it'll be a cool way to kind of unify things and get a little series going. So Miguel, buddy, happy spooky season officially now. How the hell are you?
I'm doing good, bud. Considering that this is even at the end of we're at September now, anyway.
It's weird that we're here.
I guess it is spooky season now. Yeah,
it's wild. It's officially spooky season. Today was great. We're filming this obviously earlier, but it was a really, really nice fall feeling day. It was pretty cool out. Leaves were blowing. There was a nice breeze throughout the day. Like, windows were open. It was great. So first up on our list of films to take another deep dive into, not really a deep dive, but we're going to talk the highlights from A Nightmare on Elm Street. I love this movie with everything in my heart and soul. It's the original of a franchise that went pretty wild. Maybe a little bit more wild than, well, I say that, but I don't know. Halloween went kind of wild too. I was rewatching.
I'd say it's probably the one that went the most unhinged, I would say.
Yeah, but I don't know, man, because Halloween and Friday the 13th did too. So I'm not sure. I don't know. You let us know in the comments what you think. Of the big three, which ones went more unhinged as the franchise went on? Here's the thing. The overall tone and the mood of this franchise kind of really shifted in a way that Halloween and Friday the 13th didn't. I mean, at this film, we have moments where Freddy is cloaked in shadow and he's saying these really gnarly things and he's trying to get under your skin. And then by the last film in this canonical timeline, before we get to Wes Craven's New Nightmare, their inspiration for Freddy Krueger's character was Bugs Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very strange mixture of tones throughout this film. So, but nevertheless, the first one is incredible. It's got some of the greatest horror moments ever. We're going to talk about this here in a minute because there's a couple of them on my list. It's got two of, in my opinion, the greatest death scenes in horror movie history. I don't know if there's two more iconic death scenes in an 80s slasher film than two of them that are in A Nightmare on Elm Street, and I'm sure you could probably guess which ones they are. Which really, this brings me to our list. So this is not a typical ranking video of our favorite moments. We went with 3 because originally we were going to do, hey, let's do our top 5 moments from each one, but kind of felt like 3 was a little bit more fun. You got to pick and choose a little bit more rather than
I actually got to enjoy watching the film again and not have to rank each one.
Yeah,
is that one better than the previous one? But yeah.
So this isn't a ranking of our favorite moments in the film. It's just kind of, mine are kind of listed in the order of the film because I was just kind of making notes as I went. But I had a blast rewatching all of these. So without further ado, buddy, do you want to share your first favorite moment? One of your top 3 favorite moments from Wes Craven's 1984 masterpiece.
Masterpiece. Well,
masterpiece.
If I were to start mine, we might as well just go about a couple seconds after the credits,
flat out naked,
after the fucking title card, I suppose, and get right to the creation scene of Freddy's knife hands.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'd say, if anything, that was probably a more scarier point of the film for me, even as a kid, because I told Brad that I've seen this film when I was a kid, but I was too horribly horrified by Freddy Krueger that I didn't really choose to remember any of it.
Right.
But one scene that I did remember in particular
blocked it out of your mind.
Yeah, I think it was a trauma thing. I think just went away until I met you, buddy. So yeah, Freddy's creation scene of his knife glove. I mean, if it doesn't set the tone for what we were possibly going to expect, because at this point in time, I mean, obviously we haven't seen what Freddy looks like. We don't know what he is. We don't know what he
Right.
does. All we know is that he was in a basement, just creating what we never would have like known
Yeah.
as a weapon of choice for a slasher, which would typically be like an axe or a knife or a
Mhm.
pitchfork or
Right.
even your like fucking hands for all I know. Like
Yeah.
it's not typical to have someone just be in the basement and just build his own
Like crafting a weapon of their own kind of
crafting
thing.
his
Yeah.
weapon of choice.
Yeah.
So that alone with the soundtrack starting and like it pretty much like delving us into already what Freddy Krueger's mind was and not even knowing who the main characters are was really a standing out point for me, especially for any other film that I've seen, especially with the 80s horror,
Yeah.
because it put the focal point on Freddy than it did with
An opening
Nancy
character.
or an
Yeah.
opening character or anything of
Mhm.
that knowledge. So
Yeah, it's a good one, and the soundtrack in that moment is like everything. It's little bits and pieces, like you're seeing him craft the blades, but also like you see the newspaper clippings with the Springwood slasher on it, and
mhm.
the music. The music in this movie does one of my absolute favorite things. So in music, there's different intervals between notes. It takes a major third, which is like the first interval that da 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 da, like that children's kind of thing. Like it's one of the first real intervals you learn as a child. Um, and it takes that, and there's kind of all this like moody synthesizer. You have the main melody of the thing and stuff, but it takes that and plays around with that in the theme, which it's ironic because he murders children. So like,
Mhm.
it's a really cool like compositional thing, and but yeah, that whole opening sequence is pretty incredible. I would agree with that. Um, Mine, I'm gonna just dive in like nose first. I was really torn with this because those two death scenes I was talking about. Um, I, it's Tina's death and um baby Johnny Depp's death. That's all I can call him is baby Johnny Depp. I know it's Glenn. Glenn's death. I love both of those scenes so much for different reasons. One
Mhm.
is obviously a little bit more involved than the other. Um, and I was torn which one of them I wanted to throw onto this list because I adore both of those scenes so much, but at the end, I had to go with Tina's death scene because that is the first moment. We see glimpses. We see him crafting the glove at the beginning. We see Tina's dream at the beginning of the film with the goat running around, and then she's in the boiler room and she's being chased. Like we see glimpses of Freddy, and he's scraping the glove against the boiler and things like that. But it's not until Tina's death scene that we really see what happens when he gets you in your dream. And we have the moment. It's a beautiful shot when she walks out. She's asleep with Rod. Her and Rod just had a banging time, literally. And
They sure
she's
did.
asleep. She hears the rocks at the window, and she walks out into the back alley, and she's kind of looking around like suspicious, and it's real spooky and whatever. And the garbage can lid comes rolling down, and it kind of spins on the ground and stops. And then she turns, and Freddy's walking behind her. And when his arms are stretching across the entire alley, and he's like scraping the walls with the glove, really cool scene. Um,
Did you find it interesting that was like like that was just one of the defining moments of Freddy Krueger, and it was just him with slinky arms?
Yeah,
I thought that was
yeah. I mean,
that was really
kind of
funny.
that is kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But it's a great shot. It's a weird. It's weird. So much of what I love about this film is that the dreams like don't always make sense. Like there's just weird. Like when you see one of the first things you see in Tina's original dream at the opening of the film, just after the moment you were talking about, there's a goat running around, and it's like,
Mhm.
why is there? Like why is that in her dream?
Mhm.
Um, but again, it's just really cool to it's cool to have those strange little things in there. Like why are his arms stretching? It's just he's taking up your space. You can't run past, like he is engulfing the space around him, which is really cool. They have the chase scene and he cuts off his fingers. Um, but the meat and potatoes of that moment, when Rod wakes up and she's thrashing around, the sheets throw back, she's, I don't, she might, no, she's not naked, but she's got like a nightie kind of thing on. You see the four like gashes come across her chest and her stomach, and then she's being lifted up and flipped around like she's fighting Freddy, and he's winning the battle. I mean, that moment, they filmed that in a rotating room, so they were actually she was being flipped around in this room as it rotated, and Rod is sitting there reaching up and screaming for her, and there's blood just like all over the place. It's splattering all over Rod.
I mean, it's
it's
grotesque.
it's really, really grotesque, and I love that moment because it's the first time that we see the power of what Freddy can do to you in your dream. You know what I mean? Like, look, you're not even seeing the dream anymore. Like, you see him on top of her, and then it cuts to the real world. And you're watching, like, almost from Rod's point of view as she's being flipped up the wall and on the ceiling and things like that. It's so visceral and so brutal and so intense. It's like, it almost makes you think, like, holy crap, what was happening inside of that dream?
I know.
That it's really, really brutal, but it's one of the greatest. I would maybe put it in the top 10 best death scenes in all of horror history.
I
That's
would say
how
probably the
good I
most
think that
gruesome.
is.
I would say, even though it's not as like, gory and whatnot. It's just so
Right.
bloody and so like,
Yeah,
how can I say
and
this?
the
Like
way she's
barbaric.
screaming, it's
Hmm.
very barbaric. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that it's the goriest scene. I mean, there are plenty of other way gorier scenes in horror, but
Hmm.
like it's the thrashing and the movement of it and the way that it looks, it's gnarly, man. It's a really, really gnarly scene. So that made my list as one of my top 3 moments right there.
Yeah, Tina was also on my list as well for one of my top threes. But
Really.
if I were to like add more to that, I would just go ahead and talk about Glen's scene with Johnny Depp, crop top Johnny,
Crop
and
top Johnny.
just to add
Baby
to
Johnny.
the baby Johnny, yeah, just to add to the scenario that we're going with rotating rooms. I think that their use of the rooms was very well put together,
Like of their bedrooms.
even
Yeah.
though that there were some malfunctions here or there, which we'll go with Glenn scene when he gets sucked down to the bed, and you just have the entire gushing the shining moment
Yeah.
of the room. But the reason why I love this scene so much is because of what happened accidentally, which was in the event where the blood was splattering everywhere. They had it upside down, so it gave the
Right.
ambiance, like the illusion of it going up.
Yeah.
Well, I think that they like messed up the sequence or whatnot. So as like the blood was finished, like draining, it like kind of tilted in a certain way.
Yeah.
So the guy kind of messed up which way it was supposed to go. So it gave like that weird like
Yeah.
it wasn't even supposed to like
It gives it like
be
a
odd.
supernatural weird.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to be odd. It was just the fact it was a mistake, but it still gave it such a weird
Yeah.
ambiance knowing that the blood was just
Right.
going in an entirely different direction as well. So even though that probably like threw some people off, I personally didn't think so. I thought that was really, really well done, even if it was possibly a mistake. But
Yeah.
Glenn's death alone right there is probably one of the more iconics. Going along with Tina,
Yeah.
like any horror fanatic, horror fan would know of Glenn's death, and just they possibly even know about the whole set piece and how they use the
Right.
rotating room. So for me, like definitely to add on to to Tina's death, I think Glenn's death is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
as impactful in this film as all the
There's
others.
there's two things about Glenn's death that I want to say. First of all, there's one of my absolute favorite lines after in the movie after that, when Nancy's dad arrives and all of the police officers are just like they can't handle, like they're just, everybody's just in
Mhm.
complete shock. And Nancy's dad, Lieutenant Thompson, he swings the door open, and he's just like he's blown away by what he's even looking at. Like, it doesn't even seem physically possible that there would be that much blood in that
Yeah.
room. And I love when he turns to his other deputy and he says, hey, well, like, what's the coroner got to say about this? And all the deputy says is he He's been in the John Pukin ever since he saw it. Like, that is one of my favorite lines in this movie. It's so good. But
And it's so
also,
interesting because it's not even like, so you don't even have like body parts or like
I know,
organs or anything like
right?
that. It's just straight blood.
Right. Well, and that's what I was going to say is the thing is, like, Tina's death, we see her being slashed. I mean, we don't see
Mhm.
Freddy actually doing it because we're not seeing her dream anymore. We're
Mhm.
seeing it from the real world perspective, what Rod is seeing, right? So he's seeing her body get slashed and things, but there's nobody there. She's just flipping up the wall and he's kind of taking her up the wall. With Glen's death, it makes you think, like, holy shit, like, what is happening
Mhm.
in that dream where he
Yeah.
is basically just being liquefied
Yeah.
into, I mean, like, how gnarly is that? It's just, it makes your brain run wild. Like, what what, like, what is happening
I
there?
think that
It's
these
so
deaths,
gruesome.
I think these deaths that even though like we technically only have like four,
Yeah,
I think it's four deaths in this
there is
film alone.
not a whole lot of
So,
death in this movie.
but each one of them were so impactful and just
Yeah,
showing how powerful
right.
Freddy Krueger were. I would say if I were to say anything about the first film was notating just how powerful they made Freddy Krueger seem
Yeah,
in the first film as opposed to all the others, because they really touched every part of it. He
yeah.
can walk through walls. He
Hmm.
can literally like take you from reality and pull you everywhere. He could pretty much liquefy you like it's nothing,
Yeah.
and he could honestly be, you know, he can honestly catch on fire and still run after you and
Right.
all and whatnot. So like,
Not, not only like him hurting you in your dream, but like what he's doing to you in your dream is
hmm
actually happening. Like, it's affecting what's
hmm
happening outside of like your consciousness. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's scary. That's what made Freddy such a scary villain, I think, is the fact that you can't escape him. Like, you can
hmm
outrun Michael Myers, you can outrun Jason, you can outrun Leatherface, but you can't. No, everybody's got to sleep or you
hmm
die. Like,
hmm
you know what I mean? And then it's pointless anyway. So like,
yeah,
you quite literally cannot escape him until you find a way to beat him. And
hmm until you
unfortunately,
say,
that's
"I just don't believe in you anymore."
I go back and forth about that. I'm like, okay,
I
but
would say in
really,
regards to
like,
the most anticlimactic like victory over a slasher, I would say Nightmare on Elm Street kind of tops the cake for the most
it's not
uh
even that it's not
like
even that
like
it's
the payoff just doesn't seem all that well put together considering
yeah.
what happened, which I'll mention another top like favorite scene of mine is Tina's, Home Alone edition, like her no sorry yeah
Nancy's,
Nancy's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Nancy's
yeah,
Home Alone sequence
yeah.
when she's just filling everything up with like booby traps and whatnot.
Right.
And all things considered, like even though Home Alone was like a very like toned down thing, I gotta say like Nancy really set some booby traps because Freddy
He did.
got his ass whooped
Yeah.
throughout like the
He
entirety
did.
of the house.
He really
But then
did.
it only ends up to like Nancy just saying like I don't believe in you anymore, and then he just dissipates like a fucking 90s TV.
He goes, as soon as she said it, he goes, you what? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm
Yeah.
standing right here. You brought me into the real world. Like, I'm here
Yeah.
with you. Yeah. The only thing I don't like about that, like, I don't know, the concept of being like, I'm going to choose to not let you scare me anymore, and that being the thing where he can't get you. That's kind of cool. Like, him feeding off of your fear, like
hmm
that's neat. But I just hate that he goes "Rah!" and turns blue and he's gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you really, like, I know it was 1983 when you filmed it, 84 when it released, but like, you couldn't come up with a better way for him to, like, like
I'm
burst
just
into
saying,
light
like
or go. Yeah, I
Nancy's
don't know,
mother's,
something.
Nancy's mom, her death seemed more like
You mean the blow up doll?
yeah, no, not her. LOL. That's at the end, which again was probably pretty rough as
That's
well.
so terrible.
I would say
I've always laughed about that.
I hate to say this, dude, but honestly, the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street probably isn't the strongest out of all of them.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah, it's really
It's not.
not.
I would agree with that.
And the one I was mentioning was when Freddy Krueger catches on fire, runs to his mother, and then
Right,
like he's
right.
on fire. But then like but it was just that was probably one of the most better scenes I'd mentioned in
Yeah,
this film is whenever Saxon just pulls the covers and all this
right.
is mom's
Her
charred
skeleton
body
like
just fucking lowering
lowering
down.
down.
Like
Yeah,
that would have
yeah,
been really cool to see for Freddy, but I guess not, which
right.
is which is fine, but I guess it made Freddy's quote unquote
Death, but not
not
really.
death, not really, yeah, seem way too anticlimactic because
Yeah,
just how much like damage he took
right.
and the whole Home Alone sequence, which again, I'll say this is my last moment that I enjoyed so much about this film, and that was the fire suit when Freddy
The
was caught on
firewalk.
fire.
Yeah, that was
And
good.
if I'm not mistaken, I think I read somewhere that the person who did it was Tony Sincere.
I'm not sure what the guy's name
He's a
was.
stuntman, and he apparently played a Ghostface, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a
And one
heck of
of
a
the
fire stunt, man. He was
yeah,
engulfed.
bro,
Him
he was in
and
golf for like.
Dick Warlock
So Dick Warlock, I respect what Dick
at the end
Warlock
of
did because
H2.
that sucked to like walk
Well,
there and
and
do that.
you know about the metal
The metal zipper and all that stuff. Well, here,
yeah.
get this.
And he
What
kept going. He was being burned and he
mhm.
kept doing it. I was like, dude, that is dedication.
Yeah, but
Like you are dedicated to your job, man.
do you not remember what Tony did in Nightmare? Like he was literally caught on fire, ran up the stairs,
And then fell back
proceeded
down
to
the stairs. Yeah.
fall down the steps,
Rolled
and then
all the way down and then went back up.
ran back. That's
Yeah.
dedication too.
Yeah,
Clearly,
it's
he was
good.
probably more protected than
Yeah.
Nick.
Well,
But holy shit,
you can
dude.
see it though. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
like
know
the
how they
second
did the
he lit
face,
on
but
fire,
you can
the
see that
second he lit
he's
on fire, like
like
Freddy got thick, like real quick.
Freddy's added 45 pounds to
Yeah.
himself. Um, I'll tell you one of my favorites in this entire film is Nancy's dream when it's in the middle of the film when she goes in looking for Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
When Glen is in her room and she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go look for somebody. I need you to sit here, make sure that if I start thrashing or if I start dreaming, you wake me up. Like just wake me
Mm-hmm.
up." That's his job. It's my favorite
Well, she
dream
fucks up.
sequence. He does. He screws up really bad.
Spoiler alert.
It's my favorite dream sequence in the entire film because at this point we're starting to get into like at this point Rod has been arrested for the death of Tina.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to find a way to like figure all of this out and kind of figure out what's going on. When she leaves the house, she's like, "Glenn, are you still there?" And baby Johnny steps out from behind her. He's like, "Yeah, I'm here." Which, first of all, why would he be in her dream? Like that doesn't make it. That never made sense to me. I was like, bro, he's awake. He's not,
Man.
But regardless, she starts walking around town. It's creepy. It's nighttime. Nobody's around. She's going in and out of places. She sees Tina outside of the police station, right? And Tina's in a body bag. She's got like the centipedes coming out of her mouth and stuff. I love the moment she looks down into like the basement. There's like a window well there, and she looks down and she sees Rod sleeping. And Freddy opens the door, and that's when he walks through the bars. He walks straight through the bars, and he looks up at her and just smiles, and then starts to like touch Rod, and he's like running his hand along him and stuff, and she's yelling at Freddy and things like that. He's just kind of giggling, but at this point, she's screaming for Glenn to wake her up, like she wants to be woken up. She's found him. She's like, okay, I can't do this anymore, and she's screaming, "Glenn, are you there? Glenn, are you there? Glenn," she's screaming for him to wake him up, and she finally says, "Glenn, are you there?" And she backs up against a tree. And I've always loved it. Scared me so much as a kid, but as an adult, I love this moment because she screams, "Are you there?" And all you hear is Freddy go, "I'm here." And then he pops out from behind the trees like, oh my God, it's so good. Like it's such a creepy moment. And then of course, like he chases her back to the house. That's when we get the drippy stairs for the first time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The mom bursts through the door. You know, he bursts through the door. She's trying to get up the stairs. She's stuck in the drippy. You know, it was. I think they said it was like Bizquick and a bunch of other crap thrown in there to make it all goopy. You know, the mom is like, Nancy, baby, I need you to help me, save me from. And then he rips the mask off, and he's like Freddy. You know. But Nancy finally makes it to her room, and she's going, you know, this is a dream. This isn't real. This is a dream. This is like she's trying to assure herself, like speak it into existence. Like this is not actually happening. He's not actually here. Like this is just a dream. This is not real. And he bursts through the window, or through the glass mirror on the back of her door, which is really, really dope. And he bursts through there. He's you know, they kind of have a moment. She falls on the bed and she picks up a pillow and puts it in front of her. I don't know. He's got 4 blades that's strapped to his hand. Like, I don't know what you thought that pillow was going to do. But another thing I love is like you get the weird sadistic, like playful Freddy in that moment. Like he's giggling, he swipes the pillow and then picks it up and kind of like is doing this. Like he's on top of her at this point.
Like it's pretty much a pillow fight. So, like, it's kind of like a sus pillow fight.
Feathers are around. Like he's having fun doing what he's doing. And it's very, very obvious that he's having fun. And then she wakes up. And that's when she gets all Glen, you asshole. You know, but it's that whole dream sequence. I love him saying I'm here. I love the way he's giggly, like when she's watching him like touch Rod in the bed in the police station, and he's just kind of laughing that she's freaked out, like just swinging the pillow and making feathers fly everywhere. It's just it's my favorite dream sequence in the entire movie. It's weird when she sees Tina, things like that. Like it's such a well done freaky dream sequence, and I love it. It's always been one of my absolute favorite moments from this movie.
No, this film alone has definitely had a lot of memorable moments just for the horror genre alone. Yeah. And the moments that we've mentioned are only like scratching the surface of a lot of things that, like, you know, I think plenty of you guys would have enjoyed as well. So your top 3 may be different from our top 3, and hell, I don't even think I gave a top 3. I gave like a top 5 maybe. So
you touched on a few. I didn't even give my last one yet. My last one was actually kind of what you touched on, the whole Home Alone sequence, but not her necessarily setting the traps. You know, when Johnny Depp's like, I forget what he says. He's like, anti-personnel devices. What are you talking? You know, explosives and anti-personnel devices. He's like, you're scaring me. Like, why are you reading about anti-personnel devices? But you know, she sets the traps and things. But their whole that entire final fight sequence is really, really well done. It's so the thing that I think makes it really good is that it's very intense from the time that he's on top of her after she jumps out of the window and she's laying in the bushes outside of her house, and at this point she's still in her dream. Freddy jumps on top of her and she's she grabs him like to make sure, okay, if I can bring him out, I'm gonna bring him out, and she grabs onto him, and then she wakes up. The alarm goes off because she's only got a set amount of time before the alarm is going to wake her up. And when she wakes up, there's that moment of like, oh, it didn't work. Like, shoot. And she's like, you know,
maybe I am crazy.
She says, maybe I am crazy. And then he jumps out from behind the bed and he's trying to stab her and stuff. And then, of course, we get the Home Alone sequence. He gets hit by the sledgehammer. I always loved that.
I love Freddy whenever he gets hit.
He's trying to get the door open, and as soon as he gets hit, like right in the stomach, he goes, oh. And just backs away. But yeah, I love that moment. The whole him following her, like he falls down the steps and things like that. Like, and the whole time, it's kind of funny, but it does build tension because Glen just died. Like he's like the police are still on the scene across the street, and Nancy's dad is upstairs, and one of his like moron deputies is down there. And
he sees Nancy like screaming for her life, and
yeah, she's breaking all of the windows in her house and screaming, he's here, get my dad, he's here. And this guy's just like, huh,
interesting.
everything's gonna be okay. It's like, dude, she's screaming for her life and obviously fighting someone inside of the house. Like, maybe you should take that a little bit seriously. And then she makes it down the stairs. Freddy falls down the stairs and into Nancy, and she breaks the window, and she says, "Get my dad, you asshole," or something like that. And then he goes, I mean, it's been like 5 minutes at this point that her and Freddy have been fighting in the house, and then he goes, "Maybe I should go get the chief." It's like, oh no, really? No, you shouldn't go get it's too late now. He's probably killed her. Like, you know, but just everything about that scene when, you know, he's like, "I'm going to split you in two," and all. I love that he's cloaked in shadow. We don't really see him very clearly, you know, when they're sneaking around, like you mentioned, the fire sequence. There's a lot of really, really good tension building in that sequence. And it's just kind of this, it's like a speed run of Home Alone. It's like Home Alone, but without like the searching for the kid. Like they spend half of the time walking around the house looking for the kid. This is just like boom, 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 boom. Every trap she could possibly set.
Because he was the point was the point was to kill. Like there's no question about it. Right. Like the light bulbs alone was what really got me. The fact that it just like exploded right behind him. Like that sequence was alone just like one of the more baller scenes. I was like, holy shit! I've never seen this amount of ingenuity go against a 80s slasher. At least the ones I've seen at the time. Yeah. Like this was very like this took some thoughts, and Nancy really put some damage on Freddy. I gotta say,
and that's why a lot of people hate on Nancy as being like not that great of a final girl. I think Nancy is one of the. She might be the best. I don't know if I'd say. I don't know. That's really hard. And I'm not talking franchise. I'm not. I mean, if we're being honest, Laurie Strode probably, because she actually killed her person, like for real, and how, you know, at the end of the franchise. But I guess you could say Tommy Jarvis did if you want to count like Never Hike Alone, but I don't know. There's a resilience to her. Like I don't think Laurie would have been in the frame of mind to try and
do what Nancy did.
Yeah,
especially
like,
for the first time meeting.
I know it was a different situation. She wouldn't have had the
monster.
time and stuff like that, but like Nancy tried to approach it with smarts. Whereas most other final girls approach it with like just an immediate innate, what do I have to do to survive? And I appreciate that about Nancy. I always have. You know, and I love, you know, when the cops finally get in, her dad breaks down the door, he grabs her, you know, everything's on fire and destroyed in the house. He's probably thinking, what the hell did you do? Yeah. And, you know, he's falling down the stairs, supposedly burning in the basement. And, you know, they walk around in the living room, and when they turn around and there's fiery footsteps leading up the stairs, that's just like, oh, it's such a good moment, man. The end of this film it's really, I mean, I know him turning into the blue blob thing and stuff after she's like, "I'm not afraid of you anymore," stuff like that. That's a little odd, but it's great, man. This movie has some really, really, really incredible slasher moments in it.
No,
I mean,
I agree.
It's just it's got some of the best slasher moments in all of horror history.
No, I agree with you. You know, like, do what I say. You know, dare I say, like, yes, the ending I felt was a little lackluster, but this film definitely had a lot of memorable moments that I will treasure every time I watch, and every time I put this film on, I know I have those to look forward to.
Yep, and it set up one of the coolest characters in horror, and it set him up.
It set up Bugs Bunny really well, and
really
it gave him a really cool like career. So yeah,
only to change those rules in every single movie following. We never keep the same rules for each Elm Street. We can suddenly do new things, or Freddy can do new things, or you and I can do new things. Who knows? But find out. Stay tuned for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, which we're hitting up next. So, guys, thank you for joining us on this one. Be sure to stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. The notification Miguel. Wow, I just said notification Miguel. Wow, he's a bell. Look at that, Taco Bell. Ding. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. That was really stupid. Make sure you're subscribed and you have the notification bell clicked and everything so that you can stay up to date. We are dropping videos all the time throughout this Oktoberfest event. Obviously, next we're hitting Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. Love that movie. I love that movie so much. So you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at LTM Podcast KY. Be sure to join the Let's Talk Movies YouTube channel community page, just as you see it at the bottom of the screen on Facebook. And we will see you for Nightmare Part 2. Peace out. Happy spooky season, fellas. Peace out. See you. Bye.
Bye.